Thank you everyone for is here and for all the people who are watching it back, who may be joining later. I'm Kyle van Langemheen. I'm a machine learning engineer at the SDSC, and today I'll take a little bit of time to talk about the business impact of generative AI, as well as some of the technology that really made this possible. So we have a fairly light agenda, but a nice one. I will talk a bit about the background of the GPT. Of course, there are other generative models that have made an impact, but I think this is the biggest one and the one that sparked it all. And then really focus on the business impact that Gen AI has been having. Small conclusion, and then finally, my colleague will take over and explore the full 5-day init course. So what is this rise of the GPT? The GPT stands for the Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And maybe the first time some of you have seen this was really in this big moment in 2022, where ChatGPT was released by OpenAI and became the fastest growing app in history, really showing the potential of Gen AI to the broader public. Right. So since then, 2024, we have seen this AI ecosystem really bloom, got a wide range of LLMs, models, Gen AI products driven by both mainstream and industry interests. But of course, there was a lot before this. So this GPT came from a paper in 2017, which is actually not that long ago when you think about it. And the key breakthrough here is that instead of having to go through the whole language data set, sentence by sentence or word for word, now things can be done in parallel. This allowed for massive scaling. And already in 2020, we saw that OpenAI had enough faith in their product that it became more closed source and positioning themselves really for the release of ChatGPT. So then we got this, but in 2024, as I mentioned, we got this wide adoption, of course, already and wide publicity of Gen AI, but there were still limitations like hallucinations that persisted. And last year really was the year of agentic AI and reasoning, whereby structuring the user interaction, constraining the output, and having agentic workflows, this really overcame some of these limitations that we saw the year before and allowed the product to scale also in a business and industry sense. Now we have some of these AI solutions, Gen AI solutions in production, in operation. Some are still, of course, being developed, and we want to see some ROI on that. So the focus is now going to be on these LLM-based, maybe agentic workflows, and a focus on the LLMs gives rise to either a dedicated LLM ops role or at least the tasks are being shared across the team. So then what is the business impact of this whole Gen AI boom? What has it been? So, of course, for ChatGPT, for OpenAI, this was huge. It blew up to 1 million users almost overnight, really 5 days only, which is previously unheard of, right? But it's not just for OpenAI, it's for the entire tech industry, right? If you're servicing, if you're providing GPUs, for example, that the tech industry needs to enable the Gen AI, then you are also very positively affected, let's say, by this boom. But is it just the tech industry? No, actually, it's the entire industry, right? So all of the industry, banking, education, media, manufacturing, they all have roles which are at least medium or even highly impacted by generative AI. And we see that because of the use cases and the tools that we see in Gen AI. So one of the tools that have become available is called RAG, right? So this is retrieval augmented generation. And it means that during the generation, we can benefit from the latest news and privileged information that the company may have to guide the output of the generation instead of really asking nicely of the model to output with the latest news or that it may not have or information that it may not have. So the RAG tools that now exist make this a practical reality more than just a science. It allows for rapid implementation, and they are very accessible. Two use cases that we have helped with are Covalo and OneDoc. Covallo has a nice database of chemicals, the properties. Is it a preservative? How harmful is it or not? Uh, but there was no straightforward way of connecting this to the documentation on existing products. But through the help of RAG, they were able to identify sustainable alternatives to chemicals in existing products. OneDoc, on the other hand, had now has a proof of concept for a full agentic workflow to ask specialized medical questions, to ask questions about OneDoc, the company itself, and also to schedule doctor appointments through OneDoc, all because of the technology enabled by RAG and the GenAI. So we see these use cases and companies adopting them, but how are the companies really adopting AI across the entire industry? We see here split up by the different size of the company, what the AI adoption has been. And at the start of 24, so this is a few years ago now, but this is the benefit of hindsight, right? We don't have to speculate. We really know the numbers. We see that adoption is not very high, only a couple of percentages, but this is likely because of some limiting factors that were, I think, already mentioned in an earlier session. On the other hand, over just half a year from this start of 24, we see Gen AI and AI adoption in industry double in some cases or even triple. So this brings us to the conclusion. Gen AI is recent, right? So as I mentioned, it was only 2017 from paper and 22 to one of the biggest products in history, which is only 5 years. So this is a really recent but also really fast developing field. And we have seen from the numbers that it has at least a medium to even a large impact across the entire industry. And this is because we now have existing tooling which makes Gen AI accessible. And the recent approaches in, for example, agentic workflows, multimodal approaches, which I was not even able to get into now, reasoning models, really overcome some of the limitations that have been holding adoption back and further addresses the business needs. And all of this causes the business to increasingly adopt Gen AI. So I hope some of the technology was interesting. Of course, there is much more, and we can discuss some of this in the deep dive course, which my colleague, Dr. Matthias Caripo, will happily explain to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. As mentioned, if you want to dive deeper in these kind of topics and many more actually interesting topic in AI, please join our course that will happen in 2 weeks. Actually, it would start in 2 weeks, the 23rd of January, a 5-day deep dive course, during which, if you can change the slide, please, during which you will learn how to actually use AI and data science for business impact. Specifically, you will get access or learn the basis for all the cutting edge methods that are used in AI and data science nowadays. You will also get hands-on experience with those methods. This will be an opportunity for you also to get some real-world learning about the use cases that we developed at SDSC with our partners. Some of our partners actually will come to the course and give you an explanation about the use case themselves. This will be also an opportunity for you to create business connections with other executives in Switzerland, which will also come to the course, and you will get an ETH certification by the end of the course. That's for a short course, if I'm not mistaken. The only thing we ask of you is some enthusiasm and a certain vision for business impact, especially if you can come already with a business use case that you would like to implement at your company. That's even better. You have to bring your own laptop. There's no need for previous coding experience. We will provide all the necessary tools during the course for hands-on. It will be with like a tool called NIME. It's a non-coding tool for all those hands-on sessions. And an important thing, it's not year end, but it's beginning of the year discount on the course. So please join as soon as you can. Can you change the slide, please, Kyle? So I'm not going to go too much into details about what's in the course really, but just to give you a general overview, we're gonna talk about all the different important methods in AI and data science, especially generative AI, NLP, so natural language processing, computer vision. There's going to be deep learning, unsupervised learning, and so on. But what I want to really convey here is the idea that this course is made for you executives who want to really implement strategically AI in your business. So it's important for us to give you an idea about the important topics there, such as bias mitigation, explainability, which are very, very important to make sure that the AI use case that you implement actually has impact. If you can change slide. So yes, please join us in 2 weeks, January 23rd until February 6th. It's going to be basically Thursdays and Fridays for 3 weeks. And it will take place in Andreasturm, so right next to the Helicon station. If you want to secure your seat, please follow these QR codes. And just to mention there as well, this is the last of the executive briefs that we've been giving over the last months. We hope to do that soon again. So please keep in touch with us on LinkedIn and see whether there's a new session coming on. Thanks a lot. And if you have any questions about the course or about what Kyle has presented, please shoot. We still have a few minutes before going to eat.
Yeah, thanks. I would actually have a question if it's allowed. So,
Yes.
and it is about the business impact. So, I saw it and it was a little bit abstract for me because it was always talked about in terms of impact. But I was wondering how this was measured because I also remember reading a while ago some state of the AI in 2025 where it was mentioned that actually the return on investment can be pretty low for most of the involved companies, right? I think it was an MIT survey or something like that.
Yeah, so I can comment a little bit on that for the Gen AI side. I think also one of the sources that I showed earlier, the adoption is also quite low, right? And I think the reason for this partially is maybe related to what Matthias has shown in the third day course, right? So there's a lot of circumstances that have to be met to actually turn a prototype into a success. And this is to some degree, of course, still an open question. But more and more, I think we get the tools that we need to actually make sure this product does what we wanted to do in production, which has not always been the case in the past few years.
If I can add a few things on that, there's a big work in demystification that we need to do actually, and that's part of our job at SDSC really to help you do it well, and this includes getting the right metrics, making sure that when you implement something at your company, you actually get all the benefits from it, and you know how to measure those benefits. This is really important, and I'm not sure that this is done at all companies nowadays that starts with those tools.
Great. Thank you for the explanation.
Any other pressing questions? If not, we can adjourn the session, and I can wish you a happy start of the year. and I hope that you will join us for the course in 2 weeks. Something I forgot to say, like last thing, the deadline for subscription is next week, so please join as soon as you can. Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Bye.
Bye-bye.